Now, welcome to another edition of Battle of the Heroes and Villains, where this time we'll be taking a look at the results of the poll for Jango Fett, comparing them to all the other characters we've done thus far, before I then read and respond to some of your comments. But before any and all of that, you can of course already head down and nominate and or vote for which character we do next by responding to my pinned comment below with a name, or vote with a thumbs up if they're already listed. Whichever comment then gets the most votes in the next 24 hours or so will be the winner and the character we do next. Alright, and now on to the results for Jango Fett, where we'll see that 27% of people gave him an A, 53% then said B, 16% thought he was a C tier character, which left 2% to give him a D, and a final 1% to give him an F. And so when we do all the math here and consider A a score of 5 and F a score of 1, Jango Fett ends up with an average score of 4.03, which puts him into 22nd place overall and a little over a tenth of a point ahead of Boba Fett, though it should be noted that Boba was of course rated before the current season of The Mandalorian, which means he might fare a bit better, or maybe quite a bit better, if he was voted on today, to say nothing of how he might be rated after the first season of his show next year. And so then, considering other characters on this list have been seen again or will be seen again or even have a show that will feature them since they were voted on, and there's a couple on here that I think would do much better if given another shot considering what we've seen out of them since they were first voted on, well, I don't think we can keep these ratings just static one time and that's it scores. And since I have no intention on stopping this anytime soon, or ever really, and that I am a numbers and statistics guy, and I bet a lot of you out there are too, I think it could be really cool to not only keep expanding the list with, of course, new characters we haven't done yet, but to go back from time to time and re-rank certain characters to see how their scores go up and down over time. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the best way to do that is quite yet, and I'm open to suggestions in the comments below. I don't know that when we re-rank someone, I'll make a whole other video or a whole new video on the character, or if I'll just maybe take a few comments from the new poll and tack them onto a different video or a video for a new character, or what I'll do exactly. Again, here I'm open to suggestions. I'm also not sure how we decide when to re-rank or vote again on a new character. For example, should we do another poll for Boba Fett right now, or would it make more sense to wait until after the first season of his show, or should we do it at both times? I mean, when you consider, I think we should definitely keep expanding the list with a new character every week or so, as we've been doing from the start. I don't know if we want to make re-ranking a pretty common or a rather rare thing. So again, I'm open to suggestions about any and all of this. But for now, let's get to some comments about Jango Fett, but not before quickly saying thank you to everyone who votes, comments, and watches the videos. It's been a lot of fun putting this list together so far, and I'm excited to see it grow and shift and maybe fluctuate as the years go by. But anyway, let's start as we always do with the top-rated comment, which this time came to us from Julia A, who said, "I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe, easy B." Okay, so it'll probably come as no surprise that Julia was not exactly the only person in the comments this week to quote what is, without a doubt, one of the most famous and quotable lines in all of Star Wars. And so, for fun here, let's actually examine this line a little bit. Try to look into why Lucas wrote it and what's meant by it, because I think it ties into one of the other big topics at hand in regards to Jango Fett. So to get more into it, let's actually get to this comment from I Am Bane, who said, "Now that they've brought back his Legends origin, essentially, I can give him an A. The man who was orphaned as a child, brought into the Mandalorians, led those same Mandalorians in a civil war against Death Watch, and for most of his life, all he wanted to do is make his surrogate father proud and continue his legacy. His skills led to him becoming the clone template, forever changing the galaxy." Alright, so for anyone who doesn't know his original Expanded Universe or Legends backstory, well, he's anything but just a simple man, as this comment basically starts to explain. And sure, it could be that he's trying to be sarcastic when he says that now famous line, or that he doesn't want Obi-Wan to actually figure out who exactly he is, even though the Kaminoans straight up tell Obi-Wan his real name. But I think Lucas meant it almost literally, or that Jango Fett would mean it almost literally. That sure, he's a pretty badass bounty hunter, no one argues with that, but that he isn't and never has been anything more than that, really. That he sees bounty hunting as a means of surviving and making his way through the universe. And trying to look at this realistically for a moment, if his Legends backstory is true, or if it's something along the lines of what Lucas intended for his backstory to be, well, he would be pretty well known throughout the galaxy considering all he'd done. he was the leader of the true Mandalorians after all. And if you hadn't heard, or if Obi-Wan hadn't heard of him, I'm sure a simple Google search on the HoloNet would come up with all kinds of results for Jango Fett, considering again, he was once the leader of the true Mandalorians in a huge civil war. And then when you factor in that later on we'd learn that Obi-Wan spent like a year on the run with the Duchess Satine, meaning he'd probably learn a thing or two about Mandalore and Mandalorians in general in that time, and that he doesn't seem to have any clue who Jango Fett is when he first meets him, and still doesn't even during the Clone Wars when, in a Season 2 episode, he tells Almec he encountered a man in Mandalorian armor named Jango Fett, and that Almec responds by saying Jango Fett was a common bounty hunter. Now, how he acquired that armor is beyond me. Anyway here, long story short, it seems quite clear that George Lucas never intended for Jango Fett to be an actual Mandalorian, much less have this huge, elaborate backstory that he ended up with in Legends or the Expanded Universe, and that he maybe has again. We'll get into that in a moment. And look, by no means am I trying to argue that we should keep the Lucas version intact. I'm a big fan of Jango's Expanded Universe backstory, as I know a lot of people are, but maybe the ironic part about that famous line is that's probably all George Lucas saw Jango Fett as being, and all that version of Jango Fett saw himself as. Just a simple man trying to make his way through the universe, who happens to wear Mandalorian armor. Okay, and next up here we have this comment from Larry Fitzgerald, who said, Jango Fett had one of the coolest stories in Legends with being a foundling under Jaster Muriel, and it looks like that's how it's going in canon. Nobody compares to his in-universe legacy. After all, he had an army of himself cloned. A grade for me. And yes, thanks to that recent episode of The Mandalorian, it does seem like that story, the one that maybe Lucas never envisioned, but that a lot of fans ended up loving, or maybe a close approximation to that story, or maybe a bit of a different one altogether, we'll have to wait and see. Well, it's coming back and will be canon. No matter how true or not they may stay to the old Expanded Universe story, it does look like Jaster Muriel is now once again officially the one who raised and trained Jango Fett. His name, as well as Concord Dawn, where Jango Fett was born, are mentioned or seen in Boba Fett's chain code. And again, the only thing we'll have to wait and see about is if or how much the story that once was ends up changing. As mentioned before, it does seem odd that apparently Obi-Wan would have never heard of a Jango Fett or couldn't find any information on him if he just did a quick search, considering how important he was in the recent history of the Mandalorians. Alright, and moving on now, we have this comment from Rithik Deshpande, who said, I thought he was pretty well utilized in the prequels for being a minor character. I like that his character gave a backstory to Boba Fett, although I know some people didn't like that. I'll give it a B. Also, it was amazing that Tamora Morrison played 200,000 roles, with 1 million more on the way. And I'll be honest here, back when Episode 2 first came out, I found it all a bit, shall we say, odd that Boba Fett was actually a clone and that his father, or the one he was cloned from, who essentially acts as his father, was the template for all the clones that fought in the Clone Wars, which I'd been wondering about forever, wondering what exactly they were since we first hear about them in A New Hope. And don't get me wrong, I've long since become more than just okay with it, but I've really grown to like the story. But originally, yeah, I did find it a bit much to see just how everything was so connected. It has a tendency to make the galaxy feel smaller when there's only a certain group of families or people responsible for absolutely everything. That Boba Fett couldn't just be a cool bounty hunter on his own, but that he had to have a story connected to the bigger picture. And again, I'm more than fine with it now. I like when things are, of course, interconnected to some degree. I just think you have to walk that fine line between too much interconnectivity and introducing new and different things, characters, concepts, and so on. And I really think a show like The Mandalorian has been walking that fine line nearly perfectly, but that's a whole other topic. Alright here, now let's get to just a few final comments before wrapping this video up. Starting with this one from Benjamin Augustine, who said, the scene in the Clone Wars where Hondo tells Boba to tell the Jedi where the hostages are because his father was an honorable man adds so much to Jango for me. Then there's this one from Blue Diamond Director, who said, because of him we got Star Wars Bounty Hunter. Great game, he did his job well, easy B. Then there's this comment from Haw Bitten, who said, he was only with us for a bit, but damn, he was charismatic, and he looked way cooler in that armor than Boba ever did, for me at least. We also have this one from Jake Timberlake, who said, he's definitely the best father in the galaxy for the time we saw him with Boba, while also being the best bounty hunter, gives him an A for me. Then this one from My Crow is on Fire, Give Water, who said, A. Simply put, his dedication to keeping Jaster's legacy alive through his work and the raising of his son is very inspiring. And then also this one from Nathan Braden, who said, "You know you're a badass when a Sith Lord asks you to be the template for the greatest clone army the galaxy has ever seen. Also, I loved his character in the old Bounty Hunter video game, so it's an easy A for me." And finally, this comment here from Alex M, who said, "A simple man trying to make his way in the universe, templates for the clone army, Boba Fett's father, fought Obi-Wan and walked away, killed Coleman Trebor, a Jedi, and it took Mace Windu to kill him. A for me." And after reading through all the comments and separating out all the ones that just said he was a simple man trying to make his way through the universe, I do pretty much agree with the consensus that Jango Fett is a good, cool character in the movies that does his job well, but really isn't much more than that in there, not that he needs to be, and that he has an incredible backstory in the expanded universe, one Lucas probably never envisioned for him, but one that seems like it will be coming back to the new canon in some capacity, and I'm looking forward to see how it all plays out. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think of Jango Fett, or what I or anyone else said about him here in this video. Either that, or nominate and or vote for which character we do next, or give your thoughts on how we should handle re-voting on characters in the future. Whatever it is, do leave a comment below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thank you for watching.